to click, or like that's more so my question is,
Yeah.
since a brokerage owns it, like it's not like we have command in MLS.
Right.
I don't know how ethically or legally long term they're going to be allowed to use showing time in the MLS, because I feel like that could be eliminated. Any thoughts around that?
And there's been a lot of discussion about that with NAR, so National Association of Realtors. What do we pay for? I think it's too early to see what's going to happen with that. You're right, because it seems like a conflict of interest, and so it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. And we just need to make sure we're making preparations. If you guys saw my post, if you didn't, some things that you can do now, and I just hit the record button if you're just joining us. We are, because we talked about leads, listings, and leverage last week, we're just rehashing that. And of course, the subject of Zillow is going to come up and is super relevant. So we are going to spend time, we're spending time on that. But yeah, I would say, it's all going to be super relevant. The things that you can do now, of course, I would remove any seller information. If you have and pay an upgraded service for showing time, I would get rid of that ASAP. Stop feeding the giant. Eventually figure out a way that we can remove showing time altogether. If you're using Dotloop, I would highly recommend you think about getting rid of that as well, and learn DocuSign. Is not that it's not also good, it's just not the same as Dotloop. I understand that. Just remember, you are giving people your data and they are marketing to your people. So don't ever think that that's not happening, and they're sending it all to Zillow people. The other thing, go deeper in your relationship. We talked about that. The other thing is rethink buyer agreements. Because there's so much noise out there, and if we're not educating our buyers properly about what's happening in the market, things like, hey, sellers, you might, or even your sellers, hey, you might get weird texts of people wanting to buy your house. Those are those are usually investors. Just ignore those texts, or feel free to send them to me. That's a piece of education that should be out there with your sellers, for your buyers. Hey, just to let you know, everybody's been used to going on to Zillow. I just want you to let you to know now, they are actually their own brokerage and they are competing for your business. So be very careful, because you have people just waiting for you to hit that show me today or ask for more information, because then you're going to get a Zillow salaried low-end agent. And I don't want you in that position. So if you see something, you need to make sure you contact me, or here, download my app. And if you don't know, you need to update your app. There's been lots of updates that have come on, but once you send them your KW app, which is branded to you, that comes directly to you. So you need to make sure you educate them with that. And you can set them up a custom search portal. That way they search directly through there, and you want to pull them away from Zillow as much as possible. You need to figure out great systems of how to do that, because that's what's going to change their norm. So think about doing that. Of course, buyer agreements. Maybe it's time to start talking about buyer agreements so you are protected. So when you educate them, they also know they have an agreement to work with you. So those are some things that you can do right now to protect yourself. I don't want you to get distracted. I don't want you to worry. This is about working smarter and to know what's coming and to educate our people. Any questions on that? And we'll make sure we move on, because I want to talk about the economic model. Hi, Natalia. I see you there. Any questions? Anybody else on that?
I don't want to take all the time. I do have a question.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Is there another replacement right now that we could use for showing time that does the same thing? Do you know?
Everybody's asking that right now, and I have not seen any data for that to happen. So,
okay.
So far I haven't seen any good things on that. So I think, yeah, I haven't seen anything. Again, Centralock is SENTRILOCK. I've seen that one as the only one. I know that came out a while ago, but of course people were all using showing time. So you can definitely check that out and see if that's maybe something you want to look into. I think maybe that may take some time to kind of gain some popularity, and that way, everybody can start moving in that direction. The other thing is that this points out, guys, is listings are now more important than ever, because these companies like the Zillows, the Amazons, these people are going to take your buyer business. They're not necessarily messing with your sellers. Now that can change. They have Zillow Offer, so they're kind of messing with that kind of business. But right now they are targeting your buyers. So the more listings that you have, then the more business you can continue doing. So what that means is it means changing part of your focus. If you're only working with buyers, I suggest you think about that, of how to make sure you're also in the listing business, because it is less competitive. And let's face it, most sellers don't start online, right? So they start with the relationship, where buyers start online and can go without the relationship. A seller is different. So maybe start focusing or refocusing everybody on making sure you're focused on listings. That's another way to protect your business. Okay. All right, so I had you guys go through and read on your own those pages that kind of finished off the chapter on page 117. I think the biggest thing on page 109 from that we are talking about, the 8 goal categories of the millionaire real estate agent. We talk about these things all the time, and these are the things in your tracking form that you have been asked to track. So leads generated, listings, contracts written, contracts closed, money, people, systems/tools, and personal education. So these are pretty much your top topics for any real estate agent. And if you're not paying attention to those things, again, I love that you guys brought up the Zillow situation, because that means you're staying on top of it, and that's a great thing. So it goes through each kind of category really as a summary, and we're gonna dive deeper into those through the book. So we're not gonna spend a lot of time on those, but it talks about all the categories that you need to educate yourself and go through on that. So anything that you guys want to discuss in those pages that you read on your own as far as the categories go? All right. So yeah, you saw it as a summary just like I did. So I get that. Okay, so let's go to page 119. It's Earn a Million. It talks about the science of success. So this is really interesting to me. If you look at the first line, it says there is both an art and a science to achieving your highest potential in your real estate career. The art is the motivation and inspiration that comes from re-examining your myth understandings and the way a millionaire real estate agent thinks. Now, the science is what we're getting ready to get into. That is the models and the systems, yes, but mostly the models. And most of us have gone through that economic model and actually worked out the numbers. That's the science part. That's the math part that a lot of people take for granted. They think, oh, it's luck. Oh, they have a bigger database. Oh, I want to make 100,000 and I don't need to go back and figure out how many contacts I need to make for that to happen. Guys, there's way too many models and statistics to really show you how to do that, to say, okay, if you want to do this much business, you're going to need this many people in your database. If you don't have enough, this is how many you're going to need to add each month. This is how many appointments you're going to have. And if you work that back on your conversion, this is how many conversations that you need to have. That's the science portion, and people don't rely on that enough. They say, oh, it's just luck, or I'm super busy. I'm working with a ton of people without any clarity of what it really looks like to reach your goal, and they don't track that. And so that's one of the things we're going to talk about, because we've talked about mindset, thinking a million, having all of that, and now we're going to focus on the actual science portion of it, because it is not one of those airy-fairy things where you're lucky, so you get success, and you're not, and you don't get success. There is a science of keeping yourself accountable to doing the things that you're doing. Do you have enough leads? Just like we talked about last week, do you have enough leads to reach your goal? If you do not, then you need to figure out how to get more leads. It's all about the leads, and you're tracking appointments to those leads. Anything on that? All right, on page 120, talks about the fundamental models, the four fundamental models you'll hear in Keller Williams again and again: the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, and the organization model. So those are four different models. Again, that's the science part of this business to make sure you understand in your business. You are running your own business and you should be running your business like a business, just like any other business out there. If you were the CEO, you would be tracking all of these things. This is no different. In the middle of the page, it says, big millionaire real estate agents, they understand that you must be a 20%er and find models that help focus your efforts on the 20% of activities to lead to the 80% of the results. We talked about that last week. One of our discoveries in working with and interviewing millionaire real estate agents is that they all seem to follow those four key models. So those are the things that are most important. Then at the bottom of the page, it says they represent the four areas everyone must ultimately tackle on the way to high real estate sales achievement. So you notice it's not one of them, it's not two of them, it's all four of them. So Natalia, if you're able, can you read, you can just give the name of the four different, or go ahead and read those first four things on the top of page 121. If you can't do it, you can type in the chat and let me know you can't read. Maybe you're somewhere and you can't really read, but if you can do that, that would be great. All right, Sam, I'm going to have you do that. Can you go ahead and read the top four things up there on page 121?
Yeah. The economic model, a formula that shows you how to plug in specific numbers you have to achieve in specific areas to receive a specific net income. Number two, the lead generation model, the specific approach you must take to systematically generate a specific number of leads. Number three, the budget model, an outline of specific budget categories you should track and the percentage of the gross revenue you should spend on each of them. The organizational model, the specific staff positions you will need to fill the job responsibilities they will be given as your business grows.
Awesome. So most people start at the economic model because a lot of people maybe aren't thinking of growth as far as having leverage and people leverage, which is the organization model. Budgets, a lot of times they still have to work on their P&L and their budgets and all of that. And they don't necessarily have that set up. And of course, the lead generation model. So the economic model is pretty much where most people start, which I think is really important. And so we're actually going to go through that. You definitely want to dog ear or make sure you highlight page 122 and 123. This is a fantastic flow chart of really what your business looks like. If I was going to say, like, show me something about your business, what should your business look like? It's these pages, guys. That is so important to every single thing you do. Now, it's important to note some of these numbers that you see here on page 123. Those, of course, have been updated. You know, this book was written quite a while ago, and so they've been wanting to send out forever an MREA 2, but of course things are changing so quickly, it doesn't necessarily make sense to throw something out that's outdated, kind of like computers, right? You buy a computer and 1 year later your laptop's totally obsolete. It's kind of like that. And so that's why we haven't received a new one. However, you'll notice they teach from different numbers and they're tweaking some of these based on the new industry and what's happening in the industry. So the flow chart itself is definitely still valid. What's different are some of these numbers, and we can talk about that a little bit on here as well. So I'm sure you guys have definitely seen something like that. That's so incredibly important. I think from here, page 124 and 125, they actually talk about, they go back into that creativity thing. If you're not using models that have already been done and created, by the way, we're going to look at my spreadsheet. And if you don't have that spreadsheet, I'm pretty sure I've gone through that with everybody. But if I haven't, we need to set up an appointment to go through that. And I'll get right to you in 2 seconds, Sam. But they kind of go back into the creativity of stop trying to recreate the wheel. The creativity that you bring in without a foundation makes the house crumble. So start here. It doesn't mean that you can't do something slightly different. Just like you, Sam, who you do something different with networking, yet you're still using the same models. You just go about your lead generation in a different way. So yes, go ahead with your question.
I was just going to say, so the different models that you have, as you've been doing this a while, do you find that you have sometimes in different seasons, you focus on different ones? Like, okay, I have an emphasis on the organization model, and the next time it's economic model, just depending on the ebb and flow of your business, or any thoughts to that?
Yeah, great question. So pretty much every business season, I mean, we focus on all four. Now, I would say the economic model is always the thing I start with. Not only with the newer agents, we start with the economic model, because honestly, if you don't know how many contacts you have to make, then especially people coming from other industries, they have no idea what their job is every day. So economic model, and then the budget model, of course, comes later. So yes, in business planning season is when we tend to focus on all four. When I notice that I'm seeing things fall through and I can tell I need some sort of leverage, whether that's people, systems, or tools, I really get into the organization model, which kind of tells me who I might be missing in that little flow chart. It's kind of like a bubble chart. However, I've started with the end in mind. So big thinkers start with the end in mind. So I think to myself, hey, in 5 years, what would I like this to look like? And I'll give you an example. Couple years ago, I said I want a 2-year plan to figure out how to get me out of the business. How do I get myself out of productivity? So I started with that and made those bubbles of what it would take to get me out of the business. Not only what would the numbers look like, and also the who of what I would need to look like. And then I worked that back. Okay, if I need it to be here in 2 years and 6 months, that means, so I work backwards of, okay, that means in 6 months I need to be here. The next 6 months I need to be here. The next 6 months to be here. And then when I hit these numbers of profitability, then it makes sense. So that's the organization model, especially if you kind of want to either get yourself out of productivity, or maybe you want huge growth. You're looking at Desmond, who has this huge, incredible, like huge conglomerate feeling, right? He has to start with the end in mind and work that backward. So the answer is yes. And of course, budgets, P&Ls, that of course is your budget model of figuring out how much you're spending. I always find that I'm paying attention to that the most. If I'm being honest, it should be during your business planning, but during taxes, when I'm getting all my taxes together and I'm really flushing through my P&Ls, I find like I'm really focusing on the budget model and figuring out what's kind of off on that, because I'm forced to do it. I don't enjoy that kind of stuff, but you're forced to do it when you're doing your business taxes. So yes, and then economic model, honestly, I'm looking at that every which way but loose, because every quarter we want to see what has my average price point been, because that can really change up your number. So I need to go back to my economic model. Or let's face it, if you're running your economic model on 3%, is that a good thing to be doing right now? Should you be basing your economic model when you're running your numbers on a 3% commission?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. We all know that 3% is more and more rare. So we need to be basing that more off of a, I don't know if about worst case scenario, but definitely you want to take that down to what it really is and what we anticipate that to be. And do we anticipate commissions to be going up or down?
Down.
Way down. Yeah. And so again, we need to prep our business for that, guys. I want you to be future thinkers of, okay, if commissions start going down to 2%, worst case scenario, right? Well, that's not worst case, it could get worse, but let's just say, okay, in the next 2 years, pretty much is everything a 2% each side versus a 3%. How many closings am I going to need to do? And how many leads am I going to have to generate? Okay, great. So that means even that if I'm okay right now, how many people do I need to be adding to my database and becoming my sphere, my METs, meaning they will do business with me or refer my business? How many people do I need to be adding in order to hit this number in the future at 4% total or 2% each? We need to be forward thinking on that because that's where the industry is going, at least from all aspects that we're seeing right now.
And are you saying that because of the economy or because of the Zillow thing, or like what makes you see that going there? Or like, have you seen this before? Like,
Nope, we haven't seen this before. It is, I mean, take a look at it, guys. And I don't want to say standard because that's against everything. So we know that they've been 6%, 3%. Those were kind of the typical. Why is that, guys? Because the average price point was probably $80,000. When these things came up, the price points were $80,000. They were very different. They didn't have all this technology. Real estate agents were running around like crazy people. They didn't have the conveniences that we have now. So more and more, because of the Zillows, because of these low discount rebates, all of this thing happening where people are like, wow, I can get almost all of the same services or some of the same service for much cheaper. Just think about anything out there. What does it do? It creates prices to drop. So again, we don't see that happening right away, but I think we can see a trend. And I think that you should plan for that happening. Again, we're not basing things off 80,000. We're basing things off of 350,000, which is a whole different ballgame. And so, yes, those percentages most likely will continue to go down due to that competition. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to say. And I think it would be remiss for me to say, no, Keller Williams, we fight for all our business. I think industries change and we need to be ready for that. And that just means we need to do more deals. Luckily, the conveniences that we have in life and the technology that makes things easier, we should be able to do more deals in the same amount of time and effort because we know how to work smarter and not harder. Does that make sense?
yeah. Do you think, I mean, it still will be possible, like top agents to negotiate if you know your scripts to do that? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Could be, sure. I mean, I think there's always those. I mean, we've negotiated 7 and 8% depending on what we do. So there's always those opportunities. I think that we just need to look at the trend of what's happening and understand why that's happening, and what the competition is doing and what we're up against. Again, I think we can still have an amazing career. It just might look a little different, and that's something that we should prepare for sure.
Sure. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so I am going to take you, I believe all of you have seen this, but let's take a look at the economic model. What you guys see here on I'm on 131. They have this fun little spreadsheet that you can calculate on your own. I am all about making it easy for you guys. If you want this spreadsheet or you haven't received it yet, please text me and I'll make sure you get it. This is a blank one, but it's pretty much all here for you. Here's one of the things I love about this, because I not only have the economic model here, it also has the budget model because it pulls a lot of these numbers and pulls it directly into a budget model. Now, it also will, we can calculate the listings you need in order to get you to your goal too. I love that part of it. You can also put in your 411 here based on those goals. And so that's pretty amazing. And then here's a pro forma. So, you know, when we talk about business plan and people get all crazy about doing their business plan, we usually tell you to start doing it in October. This is the foundation of your entire business plan. And from here, you can do a 411 and a 135 to basically figure out what your job is every single day and what you're going to be doing. And you can plan out your entire year based on this right here. This is why it's so incredibly important for you to take a look at this. Okay. So let's just say, Sam, because I know Marina might be driving, I think now she's got her car going and Natalia's doing something. So let's just say we're going to go for a typical lifestyle that people say, hey, this is how much I want to make. Now we're kind of working backwards at looking at the results that you want to get first. And we're working it backwards to say, okay, well, in order to get these results, this is what you're going to need to do. Okay, so let's just here, I had it set up for a previous agent. You notice I have 2.75 here as my average commission. This is, again, based on you. If you're doing something different or investments, this might be lower. So it just depends. Now, normally I'm calculating this based on 2.75. Average sales price, I'm going to put 275 here. just because that's right around what we're looking at for the Stellar MLS anyway. So I'm going to put 275 here. And what kind of a typical, what is my lifestyle? Meaning, what do I need to cover my bills? So a lot of people will say 4,000 a month. Okay, and then what this does is it automatically calculates you putting away 10% of that for your investments and 10% to pay off any additional debt. So although 4,000 might be all of your typical bills, it's also saying, oh, well, you also have like a credit card that you need to pay off. So that's what this is for. If you don't have that, all you do is go in this. If you don't want to allocate any money for that, you just go up here. If you're not familiar with Excel, you just go in here and you can put 0. So it won't calculate anything. Maybe you have to put a lot to debt, whether that's credit card, IRS, whatever that looks like. All you do is, hey, I need a little bit more there. I'm going to put 15%. Or, hey, maybe I want to save way more for investments. You can go in and change this the same way. Okay, you just change the percentage there. You don't have to change that. The yellow is the things that you have to change. All these other things are based on for you and what you want that to look like. Okay, so I've already changed the yellow things. Those are the first things that I changed, the 275, 2.75. Now, remember when we're looking at cost of sale and operating expenses, somebody tell me what cost of sale is. What is all included in cost of sale when I say cost of sale?
Signs, lock boxes.
No. Hey, see, now you're so actually, Sam, like so many people think that is a cost of sale. So I'm actually thrilled that you said that, because that means you're just like so many others that feel that is a cost of sale. So here is what a cost of sale is. A cost of sale is anything that comes out of your check before you receive it. So that would be your broker split. That would be any referral fee that you have to pay, any transaction fee that you have to pay. Some of us pay our transaction brokers out of the DA and commissions, so that's already taken out. Your cost of sale is anything that comes out before you receive your check from Keller Williams. That is a cost of sale. Now, in this example, you can see if you only do 10%, that it's not really enough to cover your cap and maybe some referral fees and that sort of thing. So based off of this, I know I'm going to need to come in here and make this more like 15%, which is closer to what a cost of sale would be in this particular scenario. Okay, operating expenses. Those things that you talked about, Sam, are operating expenses.
Yeah.
So that's any of your marketing, your lead generation, your education, your salaries, anything that you pay like that is an operating expense. Now, you'll see in most cases and most of these, because this is based on a millionaire real estate agent, your operating expenses are usually around 30%. But for single agents that don't have teams and don't have admin and that sort of thing, what I'm finding is the operating expenses are between 10 to 15%, unlike the 30% with a team. So you have to base it on what your particular business looks like. So I'm going to keep it at the 10%, which gives you an allocation of 15,000. Now, in your business, Sam, would the 15,000 a year be enough for you to cover your operating expenses? Or should we bump that up? Oh, I think you're mute.
I would bump it up a little bit.
Okay. 15%. Let's try that. $22,500. Does that seem?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So that's what you see here. When you look at this and how this looks here, what you're going to see is it now does the calculations of based on the things that you have here, in order to generate what you want to generate for this, which is basically 5,000 a month in take home, what are you going to need to do there? You're going to have, assuming you have a 50-50 business, 50% sellers, 50% buyers, at 275, you're going to need to sell 16 listings and 16 buyers. So that's 32 deals that you're going to need to do in order to reach those numbers. And so if you look at a typical conversion, again, you can play with these conversions here by just clicking here and changing these conversions. If you're just fantastic and you close 90% of your deals, you can change this. 75% is common. Now with buyers, some people are actually lowering this because it's, hey, I'm having to work triple hard and I'm only closing 60% of the buyers because so many multiple offers, they give up, I can't find them a home. So you might have to play around with this a little bit more in order to get to the 16, meaning you'll need more appointments to do that, okay? And so a lot of times this is a huge aha for people, because although this seems like a ton of business, when you look at the amount of appointments that you actually need per month, that means you need 4 new appointments per month, or a total of 5. So that means this is probably 2 point something, 2.4, 2.4. So yeah, a total of 5 appointments to reach that goal. And a lot of times people stare at this and they're like, oh my gosh, 240,000 GCI, that's insane. But then I go, okay, so that means 5 appointments. Do you think you could do 5 appointments, which is a little more than 1 a week? Then it's like, oh, wait, I could definitely make 1 new appointment each week, or maybe 1.2 or whatever. So do you guys see how that works and how you get some aha moments of what you should be tracking? Because that knows every week, or if you don't at least have 1 new appointment every week, then you know you are off goal, and you should never go more than 3 weeks without being on goal. I know my coach told me if you go 3 weeks and you know you're off goal, then guess what? I'm working overtime, I'm working on a Saturday, I'm making more contacts to catch up. Never go more than 3 weeks without being on goal. Or else, what happens if you do that?
It becomes a habit. Getting
Yeah.
off goal becomes a habit.
And you let it go, right? You're 6 months in and you realize that you are about 20% to goal. And then it becomes a little overwhelming. It becomes daunting, like your confidence is down a little bit. You start to want to change your goals. All of those things start happening because you didn't make the change or the tweak that you needed to make early on. You needed a course correction way, way earlier than that. Okay. And so this, if you scroll down, this actually goes into the lead generation model of, okay, it all calculates for you. If this is what I want to do, if I want to close this many deals, statistically, how many people do I need in my database in order to get that done? So let's see, let's say, Sam, you probably have a lot of people, but for Mets, let's say you have 300 people Mets in your database already. This is saying you needed 190. But again, remember, this is meaning you're converting at that highest level of 12 to 2 for your Mets. That's the conversion rate. This is calculating based on every 12 people that you have in your database that is considered a Met. You should get 2 pieces of business from every single year. And so we all know that that's a pretty high conversion rate, especially in this day and age with so much noise and competition. So that probably can be tweaked of where I probably need more like 250. It also can tell you, Sam, that if I'm looking at this, yet I'm not hitting 32 sold, that means somewhere here my conversion is messed up because I have plenty of Mets in my database to make that happen. So why is it not happening? I've got a conversion problem, which means I need some sort of leverage, people system tool to make that better. So you've got that there. Any questions on this?
Can you break down the more of the allocation of funds? Because I'm just not sure. I don't see it all there where so we have 240 GCI. I'm trying to do the math and I'm not sure where it all goes.
Yes. So again, I think it's probably calculating based on a higher, on a higher, operating expense is what this is automatically doing. Because when you look at this and you look at this, it then kind of looks at your taxes and all of that, and that's what it bases on. I can tell you absolutely this is much higher based on most people's businesses, but what you see it calculating here is pretty much taking all of those things into account. It's looking at this budget model too here. Remember, I talked to you about the business model and your percentages on here. You can kind of see of how that's calculating in here and how it's pre-filling. When you do your own, you can tweak these to be whatever, say really, I mean, you probably pay, I know you pay a payroll service maybe, so you can include that into your salaries, even though it's more kind of a, you don't necessarily W-2 them, but you can go ahead and look at this and look at these numbers based
Sure.
on
Okay.
that. But yes, and we can do one together and make sure it's specific for your business.
Okay. Could you
And
send that? Because I don't know if I have this one.
oh, you don't? Okay. You have
I
an
don't think
outdated?
so.
Okay, cool. So listings needed, let's talk about that. And again, so that you guys can fill this out. So we know it's saying we need 16 listings closed. So what we do is, okay, we know this says 32 is what we want to, we calculate the 10% fallout. What percentage of closed transactions will be listings? We have 50 in this. Multiply the number here, percentage of your listings that will sell. We actually think that's probably pretty high. I would say 90% of those sell. So it divides this. Average days on market right now, what would you say right now, Sam, for you?
For my listings, average days on market
Yeah.
for probably less than 2 weeks.
Okay. So let's put 14 days. So that's saying, yes, for every, depending on how many listings you have, but pretty much you always need one active listing is what this is telling you. You are off goal. If you don't have at least one active listing at all times, you will be off goal to close that 16. Okay, so I like this too, because this is another way for listings. If you're going to close that many in this particular market, how many that you need for that. Okay, in this budget model, you can go really deep into this and figuring out which segment or category that goes into. A lot of people don't realize like lead generation, that's where your signs go, because signs specifically, it's not necessarily any type of marketing, but that's kind of what you get leads off of. So lead generation a lot of times includes a lot more than you would think that it would include for that. Okay, so this. So I will make sure I send this to you. Any questions on those numbers and the science? I got it, Natalia. I see your email. I've got that. So any questions on that? Because there's one last thing I want to mention looking at that isn't necessarily on the spreadsheet. But when you talk about then converting it to contacts, this is one reason why we are tracking, because you should know what your own conversion rate. This is also why you shouldn't be throwing in numbers and just to make it look good and check the box that, oh, I made, in bold, when you're supposed to make 100 contacts each week. I can't tell you how many times I know people are like, I did 101, 102. When you know darn well they probably made 30 or 40 contacts, right? In bold, because people are checking the box. Because when I look at those conversion factors, you're only hurting yourself if you're saying that you made more contacts than you really made. And when you look at the appointments that you set based on those, it really messes up your conversion factors. And you need to understand that, because if this thing said, as you saw what it said, let's see, let me look at that again. How many appointments do I need? So it's telling me I need 2.4 or almost 3 appointments to get there. Okay, so let me look at my conversion, and it looks like for every 100 contacts, 50 contacts for those that have been in the business, 50 contacts to get one appointment. That's what it takes me. So I know, I need to have 2.4 contacts. How many contacts do I need to make? 240, like if you're looking at it that way, right? If I know how many, or if it's 50, it's more, but if it's 100, then 240 contacts, 2,400 contacts. So those things you can actually backtrack with math to figure out if you're behind. If you say, oh, you know what, I'm behind, I need to set 4 appointments. You should be able to backtrack how many contacts you need to make. Remember, when you're making calls, every no or I didn't really have business for you just gets you closer to the yes. Statistically, unless you need a lot of work on conversion and your scripts, someone is going to say yes. So it depends. This is why you track your numbers, to understand your own conversion. And hopefully that conversion gets better and better. To grow your business, you either need to change your price point, change your conversion, or of course your units. But of course, an easier way to do that is to get better at what you're saying or change your price point. That can change your world very quickly as well. So those are ways you can do it without saying, I just need to work more. Well, not necessarily. Maybe you just need to have better scripts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so any other thing you guys want to talk about or discuss? I know Natalia and Marina are doing other stuff, but Sam, did you have anything else? We've got like 2 minutes, and then I just want to kind of tell you what we're going to be looking at next week. Oh, actually, there's not one next week because of family reunions, so we're skipping a week, so it'll be the last week in February, by the way. I hope you guys are all coming to family reunion, especially with everything going on. You're really going to miss out some important information. So I hope you're all going. Marina says, please send me the sheet. You got it. Absolutely. I will do that. But we are going to dive next time into the lead generation model, which of course is going to get us into that beautiful, you'll hear 8x8, 12 direct, 33 touch, which is actually now 36 touch. We're going to dive deep into that and what that should look like as far as your lead generating and conversion. So I'm going to show you what my team does and what that looks like as far as a 36 touch to hopefully help you bring that together and generate, if you don't have it together, what your 36 touch could look like. So we're going to dive deep into that. So we'll make sure, because I'll have things for you actually that you can put right into Command if you're using Command, smart plans and checklists that you can jump on right there. So lots of good stuff happening for our next meeting. Thank you guys for being here. I hope I see you at family reunion. And of course, you guys know I'll send this all to you right now. They'll be coming your way. Might be in a Google Doc form. So if you have any issues with that, let me know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes,
Debbie.
yes.
Quick question. No, I was just curious.